Oh boy, man. Well, if you watched it this long, I appreciate you watching. Yeah, it was a lot. I didn't expect that much, like, because I knew a little bit of things about the Mexican Revolution, but I had no idea like how just crazy it was. Like, it was only a period of 10 years, and the closest thing I could compare it to would probably be the French Revolution. But I actually compared the numbers, and way more people actually died in the Mexican Revolution than in the French Revolution, which surprised me because I thought for sure the French would have had more, because with all the people that were being like guillotined and all the crazy crap that was going on in the French Revolution, which I may cover someday. The only game I think that may cover that is maybe Assassin's Creed Unity, which I've never played, but I imagine that's probably the only game that kind of covers like the French Revolution kind of. But yeah, it was just a crazy thing with the Mexican Revolution. It didn't surprise me like the American involvement. That doesn't surprise me at all, because we always, in my opinion, stick our nose in where we shouldn't, But if it aligns with our interests, then yeah, we need to go over there and quote unquote help them. Totally, not for our interests at all. We're just genuinely helping them. But yeah, and especially to seeing the role that women had too. Like, I had no idea. Like, I mean, I heard some things, and I figured Luisa was probably based off of somebody, but I had no idea the amount of impact that women had during the revolution, like fighting as soldiers, which is, and that was a crazy thing. Like, Mexico's like kind of been way ahead of the United States when it comes to that kind of thing. Like, they had, and his name is Vicente Guerrero, but I don't remember what. It was maybe early 1800s when he was president. But he was indigenous and black, so that was the first thing. They had Benito Juarez, the first native, president, and they had like women fighting before the United, like they were kind of ahead of the game, and then in certain aspects of that kind of thing. But I have a list here of some of my thoughts that I had, and one interesting thing that I saw. I didn't really see too many younger people, but it's more kind of older people that I've seen kind of think that Porfirio Diaz was like a hero, which, in my opinion, and from what I've read and stuff and researched, he didn't seem like a hero to me. Like, he may have done some good things, like he, modernized Mexico to some extent, with the railway system and bringing more money into Mexico. But by the means of which he did it was not a good thing, in my opinion. Like, he basically screwed over all the poor people, all the, average people, not all, most of the average people, and the indigenous, of course, even screwing over the Catholic Church, selling it to these foreign entities or these hacendados to get bigger and bigger estates. I just don't understand how. I mean, maybe people in the comments can enlighten me. I just don't know how people could see him as a hero. Like, he wasn't as bad as some of the other people that came after him, but in like the way, like his pan or palo, kind of like, you do what I say, I'll reward you, but if not, I'm going to punish you. But I guess it was the same with anybody else. Another thing that I noticed was, now, okay, I'm going to pretext it with this before people say, oh, you're ungrateful, you hate America, blah, blah. And I do not want to get political at all. That is the whole reason why I love history, because I'd rather go and look at historical stuff than current modern day stuff. And both sides too. I'm not one side or the other. I personally think that both sides don't really help anybody, that they're corrupt. They only look out for their best interest, and I think it's kind of a device to make us fight with each other so the elite people can do what they want. But anyway, that's neither here or there. I don't even want to get into that. That's just what I think. But I kind of saw it as like a similarity where it's like, it's still, and it's always kind of been like that throughout history. These wealthy land-owning individuals, or like estates or whatever, but these people who have money, they make decisions for the that impact the common person and for the common person, but they don't live like the common person. And maybe it's just because, honestly, I just pay taxes, with my job and how everything works. I have to pay every year, and my taxes went higher this year, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't see anything really bettering around me. I don't really see, like, seriously, guys, like, I mean, not that, like, oh, my single cent makes the biggest difference in the world, but when I'm driving around, I'm seeing more homeless people than I've ever seen before on major and non-major street corners. And maybe it's different in everyone's respective areas, but I'm just like, what is this money going towards? Like, I'm seeing my property tax go up. I'm seeing my income tax go up. What is it going towards? Because nothing really seems to be improving around me. And I know things are hard for everyone. A lot of people, in general, because like you're just basically whenever you go to the store, you feel like you're getting robbed. You could buy 5 things and it could be like 40 or 50 bucks. But anyway, my point was that even today, we still have people on, and I'm going to say this, on both sides of the aisle, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter, that these people do not live like us. They have never, or if they did, it was a very long time ago. But a lot of times they don't live like us because they never been like, oh man, I paid too much for this, or my account's gonna overdraft, or oh no, I forgot about my light bill, I'm not gonna have money for my light bill. They've never had to live like us, but yet they're making decisions that directly impact us. And to them, like, oh, little property tax raise or little income tax raise is not a big deal, but for other people, it is a big deal when things are already tight as it is. But anyway, that's just the point I wanted to make. I didn't want to delve into that, and like I said, I'm probably a little bit spicy because I had to pay my taxes, and I'm not thrilled about it. Anyway, this is another thing that might get me in trouble. If that didn't get me in trouble, this might get me in trouble. From what I've researched, okay, I think Pancho Villa, for the most part, had good intentions behind what he was doing. Now, there were some means at which he did it I could maybe disagree with, but overall, I would say that he had good intentions. People are really going to get pissed when I say this. I think that if he would have lived, not that I wanted him to die, I don't want nobody to die, okay? I would have rather him not been assassinated and been shot up in a car. No, and he did a lot for the people around him in Chihuahua, and there was a reason why people supported him and a reason why people believed in him. But I honestly think that if he was president, let's say he survived and he became president in 1924 or 25, whatever it was, I think he would have most likely been corrupt as well. Because from two things that I noticed. The first was in 1914 when him and Zapata were in the palace, and he was like so focused on like sitting in the presidential chair and stuff. And maybe he's just like, oh, I just want to take a picture in the presidential chair. Like let's say this would never happen. Let's say I were to take over the Oval Office. I would to invade and take over. Would I want to take a picture in the president's chair, or in the Oval Office? Sure. But it just was weird how he was wanting to do that and not really, because Zapata was like, let's burn this thing, to end all ambition. But it seemed like he was kind of more still wanting the power. And it's kind of like that quote in Reddit. It's like power. There's very few men, or I should say people, that can wield power without it corrupting them, without it people wanting more and more and more. And honestly, I think, and then there was this other thing that I saw, I believe it happened in 1916 or 17, where he was in this, I believe it was a town in Chihuahua, where they basically just destroyed the whole town in retaliation for someone who betrayed him or someone who didn't want to do anything with him anymore. And basically, I'm going to have to censor this, he told, there's some disputes, but there's a lot of accounts I'm seeing where he actually said this, for his soldiers to either kill or rape a whole bunch of women in a town, because it was the town of someone that betrayed him or whatever, which is okay, that's going a little bit too far. I understand in revolution and in war, violence happens, people die if civilians get killed and stuff. But it's that's just too far in my opinion. But I don't know, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe it was exaggerated. But I've found that on multiple things. I'm because of that and how he kind of lashed out like that, and how he wanted the presidential, to take pictures in the presidential seat, in my opinion, shows that he wanted power. So that's why, in my opinion, if he were to become president of Mexico, I think he would have been corrupt as well. But I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe a 6 weeks of research or whatever isn't enough to make that kind of assumption. But in my opinion, I think he would have been corrupt. And Zapata was one of the few consistent people throughout the entire revolution. He knew what he wanted. He stuck to his ideals until the end. So that's what I think. Another funny thing I noticed, or that I found out, was that La Cucaracha was popular during the revolution. And a lot of historians say that it was a satirical song aimed at Victoriano Huerta, for his addiction to alcohol and marijuana. And I thought it was funny because like it's a very popular song, you know, very popular Mexican song, but even just a very popular song in general, I would say. And it stemmed from the Mexican Revolution. I just thought that I was like, wow, like I had no idea. So I thought that was interesting. And then my final thing is briefly my thoughts on each kind of regime. So first we have Porfirio Diaz. Like I said, I think he did some good things, but I also think those good things came at the expense of the poor and the indigenous, which I'm not cool with. And then also kind of the kind of attitude that Mexico couldn't be its own identity, that it needed to be like France and it needed to be all these other European countries. And I'm like, Mexico is a very unique and a very rich history, and I think that it needs to reflect that in its leadership and its government, and that it shouldn't be trying to be like a European power or whatever, because those were different circumstances. So that's what I think about Diaz. Madero, I think Madero had good intentions. I think he might have had some good ideas, but I think it came down to that what am I wanting to say? I want to say relatability. I don't even know if that's a word. What is that? The perspective, okay? Because he came from a wealthy family. So, and then even like when him and Zapata were talking, Zapata's like, this guy's full of shit. He's not gonna help us, because he came from a rich land-owning family. You know, his family was very rich. You know, that the Madero family was very powerful family at the time, and that kind of goes into what I'm talking about. Where sure, these politicians may have good ideas, they may have good intentions or whatever with some of what they're proposing, but the problem is they don't live like the average person, but yet they don't realize that this quote-unquote good idea or this good intention may come at the expense of the average person, at another expense to the average person, when things are already tight as it is. So I think that was kind of Madero's problem. I think Madero was also too trusting of Victoriano Huerta. He should have seen the writing on the wall. His brother, from all accounts, didn't like him at all, and I don't know why Madero had this blind faith in Huerta, but he should not have. And and then Victoriano Huerta, in my opinion, is the worst out of all of them. Like, he was very kind of a military dictatorship. He did nothing. I think I even said it in the actual video that he did nothing to improve anything for anybody. And I just think that out of all of them, he treated people the worst and the most corrupt. I think that he was probably the worst out of anybody. Then we have Carranza. Carranza, I think, was kind of similar to Madero, but a little bit worse. He had all these. I feel like he had all these promises to get power, but then as soon as he got power, he's like, "Oh no, screw that! I'm not going to help. The peasants. They want land reform. Hell no! I'm not giving them land reform." And that's the thing, is like, I feel like there was kind of a common theme and a common cycle, like how I was saying, where people who benefited from the Porfirian system, like, they had all these complaints and all these issues with the Porfirian system, but when those benefits came into question at the expense of the revolution, they're like, oh no, I gotta preserve my position, I gotta preserve my status, I gotta preserve, I can't just give, land back to them, like, no, like, but that's the thing, is like, everyone wanted to change it. I think Carranza was the only one who wasn't against Diaz, but everyone else kind of was against Diaz, but they were benefiting from his system, but they're like, oh yeah, we need to change it. But then as soon as they got into power, all that flew out the window. So that's where I kind of have an issue with Carranza, where he was kind of, where the Constitution, he made the Constitution more radical than he was. And he mainly made the Constitution more radical to kind of circumvent the Zapatistas and the Villistas. But he didn't really implement that himself, which, I mean, I always have an issue with when politicians do that, but so that's why I'm not a super big fan of Carranza. Oh, and then also he had Zapata killed, which I thought was kind of bullshit, and he kind of did it in like a backhanded, cowardly way, I think. Another thing I didn't like about Carranza was that he did not enforce any of his policies that he passed. So he would pass these policies in Mexico, say like, oh, I want land reform for all the peasants, give them the village land, and have it divided among them so everyone has land. Great, that sounds nice on paper, but it's no good if you don't enforce it. And he didn't really do anything to kind of enforce it. And it more or less became similar to how it was during the Porfiriato, where instead of the hacendados and instead of foreign powers holding these big land estates, it was now, oh, military generals, oh, military commanders, oh, hey, you scratch my back here, I'll give you a piece of land, and that's how it kind of was. And it was kind of like the military governors divvying land out to their cronies or whatever, so that's why I think like I'm not a big fan of Carranza either. Maybe he did some other good things, but the good things don't mean anything if you don't enforce it. Obregon's kind of a mixed bag, because I think at first he wasn't too bad. He kind of brought some level of stability, I would say. I think he did some kind of land reform, but it wasn't like as radical as the Constitution would have stated. He, I think, had better enforcement of certain policies that he passed than Carranza did. I think he was better at centralizing things. But I kind of have an issue with how kind of like his treatment of like the Yaqui people. Because I think, what was it during? It might have been during the uprising against Diaz, or maybe it was against Huerta, where he used Yaqui troops, and promised to help them and promised, oh yeah, but then as soon as he got power, or even, I think it was after his first term as president, but right before his second term, he went and like was like trying to, he had another conflict with the Yaqui again. It's like, I don't know. I just didn't think that was cool. Yeah, I would say that was kind of the issue I had with him. Another thing under Obregón, which was, I thought, was obviously the assassination of Pancho Villa, right? And I guess, like, historically, like, it makes sense, like, why it would have happened, but, I mean, and there's some people thinking that Obregón didn't have anything to do. I think he had some level to do with it. More people are kind of more blaming Plutarco Calles, that he was kind of the main mastermind behind it, but I think it was more, I think Obregón had to have known. In my opinion, I think he had to have known, and I think it was kind of similarly what happened like with Carranza, even though I think maybe with Zapata it was kind of more of like a byproduct of what Carranza was doing, but he didn't like directly, I don't know, maybe he did directly plan it, but it's just like, it's kind of the same thing that I said about Carranza, where I just thought it was kind of like a weak, kind of cowardly move. He should have let the people decide versus, letting, we got to kill him so that way they don't really have a choice. But I don't know, maybe Pancho Villa would have reignited the fires and reignited, the flames and started more kind of conflict, but I don't know. And then another weird thing was that I was reading up on it. Apparently Pancho Villa's skull was stolen, which is like, what the hell? And I guess from what I understood, it was still, once again, the Skull and Bones Society, where it was claimed that the skull was sent there, but then the Skull and Bones Society was like, oh no, we don't have it, so it's like, so his skull's missing, just like Geronimo's skull, just like Mangus Coloradus, like two Apache warriors, and Medicine Man and Chief. And it's similar thing. Like, I think that there's some rich asshole, probably some sick rich asshole, who has a whole collection of old skulls, like, and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just think so. And then I just thought that was just weird. I should do that. I should make another video like this about like maybe talking about like with Seth or whatever, and talking about like grave robbing, because that was a big crime back then. That was one crime was I think it was called body snatching, where they would more do it with like rich people, where they would take the body of a rich person and be like, hey, if you want the body back, you got to pay us money. Like, there was this whole plot to take Abraham Lincoln's body. Like, I could talk about that someday too, but anyway, I'm getting off topic. And then Plutarco Calles, I would say he was a little bit worse than Obregón. He had a lot of stuff that happened during his term, like, and it was kind of like unnecessary. It felt like why? Okay, I understand. Like, maybe he was atheist or whatever. I think towards the end of his life, he said that he found religion or something. It's just like, know your audience, okay? Mexico, the majority of Mexico is Catholic. The Catholic Church has had a presence in Mexico since the 1500s, maybe late 1400s. Why would you go and piss off the and some of the Catholics were crazy, might I add. Why would you go and piss off the Catholic Church and not think that anything was going to come of it? Like, I understanding maybe moving away from separating church and state. I think that that's an ideal thing, but like the way he went about it and caused the Cristero War and inadvertently got Obregón killed because of that. I mean, he didn't do it, but like all of those actions kind of led to Obregón getting killed because he was killed by like a crazy, I forgot his name, crazy Catholic guy. I mean, he technically didn't go back on the no re-election, but it's like he found a way to kind of like circumvent it so he could keep his buddy in power, and like, oh, we could just keep switching back and forth, and which I think was kind of bullshit. And I think that was kind of one of the core problems of why that there was so much turbulence and stuff. Like, it didn't just end with Madero and Madero taking the presidency against Diaz, because a lot of these guys, they wanted power, they got a taste of power, and they're like, I want to keep this power, I want to make sure I don't lose it. So, and I think that's kind of what Calles was doing, was he was kind of trying to circumvent the founding principle of the entire revolution. It's almost like they got so caught up in like trying to get power. It's like they almost forgot initially what they were fighting for in the first place. And that was obviously land reform is also a very big issue throughout the Mexican Revolution, but I think that was a key issue, was the no re-election, because he didn't want another how many years of like Porfirio Diaz. Like, he didn't want from one person ruling from 1884 all the way up to 1910, but yet they were almost willing to break that. And like I said, they technically adhered to it, but it was kind of like a loophole, roundabout way of adhering to it. And then also what he did after Obregón died, instead of stepping down, instead of having another election, instead of maybe making the vice president interim president or something and holding another election, he kind of did this kind of like faux, where it was like jefe maximo. Basically, he was president during the rest of Obregón's turn in all but name. Like, he put three puppet presidents up, but he held the real power, and he wasn't willing to relinquish it. So that's kind of what I didn't really like about Plutarco Calles, was that he was kind of still holding power, but he didn't want to give it up, and he did it through this faux way. It was like, oh no, it's fair this way. It's like, no, it's not. You're still running things, but they're just like your puppets. I didn't know this either, that the same party has been ruling in Mexico for the last 70 years. So it's like, we fought a whole revolution based on no re-election, but then it's like, I mean, maybe they thought things were too turbulent, and that's why it went more of that direction. But I also think that that's a bad thing too. You can't just have one party, even if it's different people. You can't have one party ruling the government for that long. But I mean, I don't know. It's not like things are super better here, because I think personally in the U.S. things are too turbulent. Where like a lot of, 8 years. Sometimes like people had 8-year terms or whatever. But I would say like in the last 10 years, since like 2016 roughly, things have been too turbulent, where it's like 4 years Republican, 4 years Democrat, 4 years Republican, 4 years Democrat. It's like, and that's why like nothing, in my opinion, gets done, because there's so much back and forth. Whereas, like in, other years, it was at least 8 years, so there was more things that got done. But I don't know. That's just an interesting thing that I wanted to note. And then we have Lázaro Cárdenas. He is actually becoming like one of my favorite people. Like, I have like a list kind of my favorite people throughout history. Maybe I could do a video about that sometime. But I don't know. I might wait a little bit, because that list kind of grows, and sometimes I have them and then they take them off. But he's becoming like one. I might add him on the list, because like he's becoming like a really, I think personally, like, he wasn't perfect, right? But I think he was kind of that kind of non-power hungry transformational leader that Mexico needed. And I think that he was finally one who actually made an attempt and did something for the peasants and like the lower class people. I think even just like learning about his life, like I fell into this whole like Lázaro Cárdenas like rabbit hole, where like when he was like 16, I think his like father died, and he had to end up basically providing and taking care of the family. He was involved in a lot of the previous factions within the Mexican Revolution, so it's almost like he saw everything from all sides, kind of like he was I mean, he wasn't there for long, but like he was, he did a stint with the Zapatistas. He was with the Villistas. He, I believe he may have served either under Obregón and maybe Plutarco when they were generals. So it's like, I think that he kind of had that balanced view, and he didn't just come at it from one side. And I think a really big deal was expropriating foreign entities from Mexico's oil. Now, some people debate nowadays like the long-term effects of it. Like some people say that it wasn't a good thing long-term, especially because as once again the government became corrupt, especially due to the rise of the cartels and other organized crime. But I think like in that moment, like if he would have had maybe like a few, like I guess Camacho was pretty good as well, but I guess if he would have had a few more good administrations after that to keep implementing and maybe even build on what Cardenas originally started, I think it would have had a better impact. Yeah, he's becoming one of my favorite people, like one of my favorite historical people, especially of the 20th century. Yeah, and another interesting thing about him is that he has, I believe his mother was Perpecha, which was an indigenous community in Michoacan, and I think unlike other people before him, and especially during that time, he actually embraced his indigenous heritage, which was not very common at that time. A lot of times, like if you were like mixed with Spanish and indigenous, you would more play up the Spanish part because it would help you in the quote-unquote social caste system. Like even Porfirio Diaz, his mother, I believe, was, I think Zapotec? I think she was Zapotec or half Zapotec or something. Basically, he had some indigenous heritage, but he played up the more Spanish part and the more European part in contrast to the indigenous part. It's very interesting, like, especially between the two cultures, like between Mexico and America, where in Mexico, it's kind of almost as like a shame, and even like in certain, don't laugh at me, okay? In certain novelas that I've seen, if they've called someone like an indio, it almost means like kind of like a dummy, or like like something like lower, like an indio, like it's almost used as like an insult, and it's kind of like almost seen as like a shameful thing. Now, the only kind of thing I would say that where it's like quote unquote proud indigenous heritage is where it's like you have the over romanticized Aztec warrior where he's carrying the woman up the hill, and it's like like that never happened, or like the over, and don't get me wrong, like the Aztecs, they had a lot of advanced stuff. They came up with the number 0. They were very similar to the Roman Empire. They were very advanced, but I think a lot of the times there's kind of an over romanticization of the Aztecs within Mexican culture and even American culture as well, like within the Chicano community and stuff. I've seen that a little bit. It's kind of like a over romanticization of Aztec culture, even though they did some really messed up things. They had slaves, the child sacrifice, like there was some things not good about the Aztec culture. But anyway, and then in contrast to America, where not really in the past, but more I would say in recent years, there's been this like surge of, oh yes, I'm indigenous too. Oh really, what are you? I'm Cherokee. It's like no offense, like literally that's like I've had people tell me that, she's like, oh, I'm part indigenous too. Like, okay, great, what tribe? Cherokee. Okay. Where was your family from? Oh, they lived in New York. Okay, that's a very little chance. The chances of you being Cherokee are 0 to none. But like it's very interesting where it's like in Mexico, it's like, and I don't know if it's like that nowadays, but more like in the past, and for what I've seen in certain shows or whatever, it's almost like a shameful thing unless you're talking about like the Aztecs. Whereas here, it's kind of like an overworld romanticized. You have the noble Indian, and I think sometimes white people kind of claim that so they don't feel as much maybe like white guilt or whatever. But honestly, everyone did something against someone else. No one should feel guilty about their heritage or their upbringing. I think everyone has a unique story, like I've said before. But anyway, I'm just getting off topic. But yeah, Lázaro Cárdenas has become one of my favorite people. I look forward to learning more about him. And yeah, some people say that he was like too socialist or too authoritarian. I don't really see any authoritarian. I could maybe see the socialist claims, but I mean, is that really a bad thing? I think that kind of in our upbringing, especially in the United States, it's kind of like, oh, communist bad, socialist bad, capitalism only good. Like but there's some cons to capitalism as well. Like I think no system is perfect, and I think that there are benefits in each kind of economic system, for lack of better words. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts about the revolution. It was really fun to learn about. I look forward to covering more topics from Red Dead Redemption, and not only Red Dead Redemption, but other games eventually as well, like Gun. I could cover some of the older Call of Duties that are like, like Black Ops in the Cold War or World War II. The Assassin's Creed is like a gold mine of historical things I could cover. But anyway, I hope you guys are along for the journey, and I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you next time.